Let's stay on this with Tom Packer, who's a fellow at the UCL Centre for US Politics, who joins us live from London. Welcome to the News Hour. Tom, Donald Trump slammed the EU in his Davos speech. He said the EU treats us very badly. Those were his words. What do you think this says about the status and future of transatlantic alliances?
I mean, I wouldn't overread it. So I think this is very much a following on of his worries in his last presidency. And as you can see, it's a bit under Joe Biden, that the EU has greater protectionist barriers to the US than the US does to the EU. And that either the US should put up tariffs, and as your correspondent was rightly saying, he has a deep attraction to tariffs, or there should be some change in the relationship so the EU puts up less restrictions. But if the EU is willing to play ball, I could easily see ways they might actually end up being able to do some deal where they both removed restrictions. So I wouldn't necessarily assume. I think it's interesting. When he was running, he was talking about a 20% tariff on everyone, including the EU, straight away. So I actually think what's been striking over the last week or so is how he's walked back a bit on the tariffs. They're still very much in prospect, but he's actually pulled back. And it was also interesting in his Davos speech, he talked about an alternative way of doing it, which would be easier, would cause less of a trade war, which is to cut taxes on companies that produce in the United States, so corporation tax. I actually think he's strongly attracted to protectionism. There's always problems in the transatlantic relationship, and Trump is a strain on them. But I actually think it's striking how he's moved slightly more in a free trade direction. And similarly, it's striking how I would say he's moved more in a pro-Ukraine direction, including things like trying to put pressure on the Russian oil price, as was being mentioned.
And so you mentioned there are things that have struck you, surprises. And of course, you were here with us at TRT World on the US election night. We spoke a lot about Trump 2.0. Is Trump's presidency going the way you expected it? I mean, of course, these are just the first few days into the presidency. And what other things have struck you? Any other surprises so far?
Yeah, I would say it's very early days. I would say on the tariffs, as I said, I think he's walked it back a bit. But obviously, again, it's early days. I think he's been even more aggressive on the personal stuff. So, for example, releasing not just some of the people who you could fairly say got a very harsh trial on January the 6th, but people who were beating police officers and the like. I think partly he may be taking inspiration from the wide range of pardons Joe Biden did towards the end of his tenure, like pardoning his entire family, which maybe makes it easier for Trump to get away with that politically. I also think it's been striking how well organized they've been, certainly compared to the previous Trump administration, in terms of having lots of reasonably well thought out plans coming down the pipe. They've done stuff on making it easier to build, and they've done stuff on lots of restrictions on immigration, restrictions on birthright citizenship, which I suspect will lose in court, but they're at least trying. They have also been taking steps to end diversity programs in the federal government. So they clearly have a plan on what they're going to do in a way that wasn't really true last time. But a lot of it's been done by executive orders. Really big change in the US, outside a few things, like possibly the diversity things. By and large, you need to pass laws through Congress. And he has a very small majority in Congress. He's going to struggle even to get the tax, some of the tax cuts he did when he was last in office expiring. He's going to struggle even to get them renewed. So he's going to find a difficult lift going forward.
Of course, a US judge has blocked Trump's order to end birthright citizenship in the last few hours. Tom, thank you very much indeed. Tom Packer, really appreciate it.